Good Tuesday, everyone. This is Pub Politics. Ric Garni here, along with Joel Sawyer on the Republican side. Wes is out this week. Phil Bailey, constant on the Democratic side. Wes, I believe, is in the heartland.
He is. I'm in Nebraska.
Making things happen, right? So
making something happen.
I've often said there are only two reasons to be in Omaha: College World Series, or if you're meeting with Warren Buffett. College World Series has been over for a couple of months, so I'm assuming he's meeting with Warren Buffett. Is that the case?
You're free to assume whatever you wish. It's top secret.
All right, we'll talk about that next week on Pub Politics. In the meantime, it's a big week political-wise. Two topics today. First is the big presidential debate coming up Wednesday in Denver. The first one, Romney v. Obama. Joel, in your experience as a political watcher, political strategist, what does each man hope to accomplish on Wednesday night?
There is one point to any presidential debate: don't screw up.
Okay.
Okay. They're not going to say anything in these things that hasn't been said 100 times. It's been in a million different television commercials. I mean, this race is ultimately going to come down to just a few states, right? Yeah. So I think there's very little about this debate that's going to influence people more than what they are seeing in the television commercials in the swing states, except for a terrible moment, a flub, a screw up of some sort.
Phil, does Romney have to do more to impress because he is the challenger and the incumbent always has these, we hear about built-in advantages, and Obama just kind of plays defense, or how would you approach it from a Democratic side if you were advising?
I mean,
the
certainly
president?
if you're the challenger, the expectations are higher on you, that you've got to be able to overcome the incumbent, you've got to outperform the incumbent. The expectations are high on Romney. These debates are just one of the last few opportunities. We just had the conventions, now we have the debates where the candidates get to present their message besides just a 30-second or a 1-minute long TV ad, to do some actual substantive discussions with the voters.
You know, watching this as it's unfolded the past couple of months, I think I find Romney as a guy who maybe he's not the strongest when he's up at a podium or he's maybe at a town hall, but he's a pretty good debater, it seems to me.
Yeah,
and maybe that's an advantage for him going in.
And, it's interesting when this is, in the week or two prior to the debate is the only time you'll see either candidate say something nice about one or the other. They're in this game of what we call expectation setting, where both campaigns are saying, Romney campaign says, oh, we'll never beat Obama. He's such a great debater. And the Obama campaign is saying the same thing about Romney. So what they're trying to do is downplay expectations for both of them. So you set the bar down here, then no matter where you jump to, you've succeeded.
Phil, I saw the New York Times, I think it was released or leaked, or somebody leaked it to the New York Times, that Romney has a list of zingers ready to go. I guess it's difficult for me to imagine him delivering zingers a la a comedian, but that'd be interesting, right? Are you going to have a zinger watch?
It kind of defeats the point of a zinger. A zinger is supposed to be, by its nature, spontaneous.
Yes, kind
of off the cuff. Not when you've got something, well, if Obama says this, then I'll say this zinger. Yeah. If Romney's not careful, he'll come off looking disingenuous on that, and that's a problem where he just doesn't look authentic. And I think that, the more comfortable Romney looks, the better off he'll be.
Well, voters have to make a choice, and voters, of course, in South Carolina, watching how this voter ID thing shakes out, we should know any day now what the ruling will be from this 3-judge panel, although we assume no matter what they rule, it's going to be appealed and appealed and appealed. Saw on Tuesday that a Pennsylvania judge delayed the voter ID law there in Pennsylvania. They're basically saying the state does not have to implement it in time for this year's election. Is that what's going to happen here? I mean, we've already talked about whether there's enough time to put this in place in South Carolina anyway, but no matter what this panel rules, Joel, isn't going to be a situation of where it's going to be appealed anyway no matter what. And it's unlikely for the Republicans who want this in place by November 6th that this is actually going to happen by then.
I don't think that there's any scenario by which that it could happen by November 6th in South Carolina. Even if they ruled tomorrow, it would be very, very difficult for it to be implemented by. I mean, regardless of where you fall in the law, I don't think it's going to be able to be implemented in November, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that way in Pennsylvania now either.
And I know Democrats here in South Carolina, like yourself, Phil, you don't want this to just be delayed. You want it to be done. I mean, you don't want voter ID at all.
We don't want a period. We don't want a period. I mean, it does have a discriminatory effect on voters, minority voters, young, and the elderly. But what folks need to know out there who are planning on voting, starting in the in-person absentee period, which is coming up real soon, and in November, is the law has not changed. Nothing has changed. The voting will be the exact same way as you voted last year. Folks need to know that.
So what's going to happen then? I mean, eventually, I know we have to wait for this panel to rule, but I mean, is there going to be appeal after appeal after appeal? Let's say the panel rules in favor of voter ID and says, yes, this is okay, South Carolina can go ahead and do it. I mean, aren't there going to be folks just appealing and appealing? I mean, could this ever actually go into place? I mean, or would they just run out of appeals eventually?
No, yeah, they'll run out of appeals eventually, or I mean, the word now is that the Justice Department had actually recommended that they say that the voter ID law was okay, and then Eric Holder overruled them. That's apparently is once again the Obama administration playing politics. If you look at the people who actually examined this, they found that there was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't discriminatory as the Democrats claimed. But yeah, depending on who's in the White House, they'll probably continue to play politics with the issue and appeal it.
Are supporters of voter ID in this state frustrated to the point where they're almost, ready to not necessarily ready to give up on it, but I mean, do Republicans, pro-voter ID supporters, do you guys see a light at the end of the tunnel, or is it looking bleak for you guys who want this
No, I mean,
passed?
I don't think it's bleak. I mean, it's it's going to be a lengthy process. I mean, we knew that. I mean, look, I mean, if we're dealing with a Department of Justice who refused congressional subpoenas, so there's no links that the Holder and Obama Justice Department will go to play politics with an issue to obfuscate the truth. So we knew it was going to be a long fight.
Whenever you mess with somebody's constitutional right to vote, it should be a lengthy process. All avenues of appeal should be exhausted before you really change someone's fundamental access to the voting booth. How
do Democrats feel? I mean, do you feel like you guys have done what you're supposed to do right now in this fight against voter ID? I mean, are you feeling good about the way it's gone?
Well, I mean, the testimony did not go well with the Republican witnesses and their testimony. It was, frankly, just reading the reports, it was a disaster. The three-judge panel had some pretty sharp questions. We feel that we've made our case that this law should not be implemented. So we'll wait and see what the judges have to say.
Yeah, and I think the consensus here, at least on the set, is that no matter what happens, it's probably not going to be in place for this election, November 6th. It'd be tough to see that happening.
Don't see it.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that, certainly here on Pub Politics. Speaking of Pub Politics, the pub version, you guys have a special show this week.
Tomorrow evening, Wednesday, at the Loose Cockaboose down by the stadium on Stadium Road, we've got Todd Ellis, voice of the Gamecocks, coming in, former quarterback, and Amanda Loveday, the executive director of the party, and Wes Donahue will be back in town. Should be a good, lively show. Do a football preview for the Georgia game and talk some politics.
An all-star cast, and it's a big week here in Columbia, not just because of politics, but South Carolina, Georgia. Perhaps you guys have heard there's a big football game this weekend. So we'll all be on top of that as well. Once again, guys, thanks for coming by. Joel,
thank you much.
Phil, see you guys next week. All right, back to you.